So Nintendo is playing a very conservative game. It's prudent, in my opinion. Actually, if I wanted to hedge myself, if I was making the decisions there, I'd probably do something similar in this regard. Now, I wouldn't be lawsuit happy because that's absolutely nasty. However, I'd also go ahead and somewhat, in a sense, play this game of, dev kits are coming soon, but not so soon. Because I know what's going on. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. I want to give you guys a perspective that, in my opinion, I'm not certain that other people are willing to give. It's not that they don't know, and I know, it's that they refuse to acknowledge it. That's all it is. I'm not going to give you anything special. What I'm going to show you is in public view. All I want to do is say, hey, is there a possibility that this thing that is in public view actually relates to Nintendo's possible business strategy at the moment? It appears that sometime early this year, IGN took a survey of gaming trends. Lewis Packwood writes about it here in gamesindustry.biz. Giving some highlights, I really thought this was very interesting. This talked about mobile gaming being number one, a huge threat, by the way, to majority of the gaming, platforms, and Generation Alpha prefer playing on mobile according to this particular segmentation study. But the preference for mobile is actually growing for millennials too, with 32% calling it their preferred device. I'm almost certain that this is probably a catalyst for a lot of the PC gaming handhelds right after the Steam Deck. I think somebody was waiting for someone to do it first. As Valve jumped right in, I'm not saying Valve was the first, but I'm talking about a big name that would be, bold to do it. And as they jumped right in, it appeared that everybody else decided, I think we can probably find a market segment here. Now, as to the stickiness of their market segment, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the next few years. But something that's actually more important to Nintendo's business is that Davison says an estimated 81 million people have played Fortnite on Switch, a number that eclipses the sales of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 68 million copies sold. This is very interesting. If you've not been paying attention to this, I wonder, why is Nintendo somewhat artificially holding back development kits for developers? This is one of the reasons I think, in my opinion, that anybody now who wants to sell video games has to be really upfront and ready to go. Phil Spencer says that the Switch 2 will be one of the focuses at Team Xbox. We're making efforts to lower the barrier to entry for people to play our games through services like Xbox Play Anywhere and Xbox Game Pass. However, if there are people who want to play our games on the PlayStation 5 or Nintendo Switch 2, we'd love for them to play our games on those platforms. In that regard, we've received excellent support from both Sony Interactive Entertainment and Nintendo's Famitsu interview that he did quite recently. You can go ahead and look for it, or you can pretty much translate it, and I'm sure the short and sweet pretty much goes into this particular paradigm. But here's something that many people haven't, acknowledged or aren't seeing as a strong factor in all of this. And that is Nintendo understands very well, just like Xbox and just like PlayStation, that their ecosystem thrives from being placed or at least gated as some kind of a sacred cow. PlayStation and Xbox have not done so. If anything, their so-called gates have fallen down. PlayStation's was a little challenging to push down, but Epic Games, who's been toppling over giants all these years, was able to start something interesting by, in a sense, pushing for Fortnite to receive cross-play capabilities. And Epic Games, knowing that that investment was going to be very important for them, did not waste any time. They went ahead and they got the job done. PlayStation right now is still flirting with that idea of what it would look like to build ecosystems far and wide. I think they've realized that somewhere, somehow, they have to go ahead and do this. So using, or I guess I would say, piggybacking off of their PlayStation 4 success and how it's actually resonating into PS5, they have a little bit of a threshold and room to allow for everybody else to kind of go and chart the course. But don't be fooled. They're going to be coming right after. In fact, they're already right after, as they've pretty much stated that this is one of the things that they're going to do. Lynn Azar stated this at the June 13th fireside chat that PlayStation held with their investors, which featured Nishino-san, who is basically the boss, and also Herman Holst and Linezar, who is in charge of financial matters in PlayStation, when she said that they were going to pretty much pursue incremental revenue from going off console. She was pretty much alluding to this reality that Phil Spencer is also alluding to. This is where, and this is the context where she actually positioned that strategy for them to evolve their business down the road. And so looking at Xbox and looking at PlayStation, because I like to reduce things to their simplest forms, I can't really see too much of a difference in this particular approach. Both of them are using this piece of the puzzle to actually go out there and increase their revenue, increase their margins, and increase their profits. In the case of Xbox, they're doing it with the face of pro-consumerism as their push. In the case of PlayStation, they come from the perspective of saying, well, we're a lot more conservative, so we'll think about it and then we'll do it. When in reality, the only thing they're thinking about is the exact same thing Xbox is thinking about. So regardless of how they position the PR, at the end of the day, both outcomes look like they're going to be the same. If you choose to play these games on other platforms, there's a likelihood that you'll play those games on other platforms. Actually, it depends on the platform that you choose to play the game. If you're on PC, you win basically everything. You weren't fighting with anybody in the first place. It's unfair. Like I've said many times, the PC ecosystem is not in competition with anybody else in that regard. I mean, yes, it's, Steam and they're in competition. But I'm just saying, based on how people view their platforms, Steam doesn't have, or I guess I would say the PC platform doesn't have a competitor because by nature, it's just, hierarchically superior as it makes these games and makes up the hardware and the technology for the consoles in a sense. So I wouldn't even call it a fight in that regard. But what is really cool is PC as an ecosystem has a huge player base that these console owners could not ignore. That is PlayStation and Xbox, because they had a lot of different people, or I guess I will call different publishers, siphoning time away from their own platforms. Now that PlayStation is aware, I said PlayStation, sorry. Now that Nintendo is aware that this is something that can happen, I think they're going to control this possibility a lot more. Roblox doesn't exist on the Nintendo Switch. And look at what Fortnite did to Nintendo Switch. Can you imagine if Roblox was on the Nintendo Switch? Think about it. Just Fortnite alone had 81 million people play on the Nintendo Switch. Imagine adding Roblox to that. Do you understand how crazy that would be? A lot of these children are going to be excited, and they're the demographics. They will literally turn Nintendo into a child's playground of live service, community games. It will literally flip the entire ecosystem. Nintendo will basically look very different. I don't understand how no one can see this, or at least no one wants to acknowledge this. But guess what? This already has taken place in PlayStation and Xbox's house years ago. And the effects is what you're seeing now with Xbox first and PlayStation following, actually right close behind. It used to be thought that, PlayStation will probably, take its time or whatever. But we're seeing PlayStation make these adjustments within a year of Xbox having done them. Talk to me in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.